Welcome, folks. I'm Jaby Koay, joined by Syntell Koay.
What's up?
We're looking at Eternals, trailer breakdown, Easter eggs, and details you missed. This is from New Rockstars, the YouTube channel, and he's rocking 3 million subscribers, almost.
Whoa.
If any of you watching this right now haven't subscribed to him, you can subscribe to his channel and get him to 3 million. He's at 2.99 million subscribers. So help push him over the finish line over there to get him to 3 million. Eternals, trailer breakdown, Easter eggs, and details you missed. We'll be pausing and playing in between his video just so we can talk about what he's talking about, if there's anything that we can comment on. Thanks so much for hanging out here. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Bell icon, all notifications. All right, here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss. And Marvel Studios' Eternals released a full trailer looking nothing like a Marvel film aside from these lazy-ass no-shows talking about the Avengers.
Thank you for addressing it.
More or less what we do. There are actually a ton of hidden details in this trailer, rooting the Eternals deep in the MCU. So I'm gonna break this sucker down frame by frame to explain it all. Spoiler warning in case my theories are right. Here we go.
I'm imagining the music's being lowered right now that you guys are listening to. It's to avoid copyright issues.
Okay.
So the trailer opens on ancient civilizations reacting to the Eternals' arrival. Their ship reveals itself with its decloaking technology similar to the tech we've seen used by the Skrulls and S.H.I.E.L.D. with that helicarrier. But here the decloaking bleeds from these golden symbols, which match the cosmic energy that emits from the Eternals' bodies. Now these golden shapes look like a more dressed down version of the golden eldritch magic runes that the MCU sorcerers conjure, suggesting that that magic might be built on top of the magic that the Eternals introduced to Earth. I just love the design of the Eternals ship as a dark, hard-angled block, which has got to be a nod to the monolith in Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which, like this moment, represented an advanced race introducing technology to an ancient Earth civilization.
I would have never put that together.
Never.
I would have never picked up on that.
Wow, that's pretty good, man.
I mean, I just think it's a cool design. You know what it was giving me feels of, oddly enough, was Independence Day. Just like this big hulking ship that's just coming in slowly, and the thing about it is, like, in Independence Day, they didn't have cloaking technology. It was being revealed through the clouds.
Right.
But it was just massive, and everyone's like looking up at this thing that they're powerless to.
Right.
You know, but I didn't think of Stanley Kubrick's, was it 2001: Space
2001
Odyssey?
Space
Yeah, I didn't think of that
Odyssey.
at all.
What if it was like a big like stunt thing when they had like those monoliths popping up in the desert like last year, like during the pandemic?
It was stunt. It was a stunt thing.
So it was a stunt.
Yeah,
thing?
it was a prank. As far as I understand, it was just an art piece or something like that.
Oh man, they should have tied that into the Eternals, man. You could have milked that for what it was worth.
Imagery also evokes the film Arrival, which touches on similar themes, but with time heptapods. Now, could the Eternals actually have risen from beneath the water here? I bring it up because this film is all about ancient civilizations that have been on Earth since the beginning. One of which we know from Iron Man 2 is gonna be the civilization of Atlantis. And we know Kit Harington, Dane Whitman, is gonna be in this film carrying a mystical sword, which we can assume is gonna be Marvel's ebony blade. And before it was carried by Dane Black Knight, it was briefly wielded by Namor of Atlantis. There's actually a later clue in this trailer showing how Atlantis' history could be revealed in this movie, maybe to give some answers as to what Wakanda's mystery undersea rumbles were all about.
You got a comment on any of this?
Well, yeah, a little bit, because there are some things that go on in the Marvel's universe regarding Wakanda and Namor finally getting absolutely pissed off and drowning all of the Wakandan people. So that would be an interesting tie-in to, say, whatever the next Black Panther movie is going to be, because there was rumors that Namor could be one of the big bad villains, and also maybe give some insight as to what they could do with Chadwick Boseman's character in Black Knight as well. So in Black Panther as well. So if that can be like a good springboard into what the potential could be regarding the Wakandan property and the Black Panther property, I'm even more excited.
Yeah. Is it at all weird that the ebony blade was wielded by a white dude? I just so heavily associate the word ebony with African Americans. Is that racist?
I mean, it's, you're right on that cusp.
Yeah.
You're like on the tightrope. No, it's not racist at all. It's just a good observation.
Yeah.
Well, here's something that I might think may be a little tad bit racist. Like, wasn't the first man or the first collection of bones an early ancient man? Wasn't that found in Africa? I mean,
I did. Okay.
So
I had that in my first Eternals trailer reaction, and I cut it out because I'm just bogging this down with my own dumb shit.
Right.
But Achara and I went into it, and we're talking about, well, this is more Mesopotamian.
Right.
This is not that far back. It's not like African early civilization. It's more like a little bit after that. That's when the aliens showed up.
Yeah, because we don't want to go back to where they get too dark because it makes people uncomfortable.
We need white people. All right.
With that.
Now, the music in this trailer is Skeeter Davis's The End of the World, a 1962 breakup song written by composer Arthur Kent and lyricist Sylvia D, with D drawing on her sorrow from her father's death, which is why the lyrics are so fatalistic, but yeah, that is also kind of how it feels to be dumped. I love how the music works on a couple levels.
Hold on. I just want to see what the lyrics real quick, what it said there. Why does the sun go on shining? Why does the sea rush to shore? Don't they know it's the end of the world because you don't love me anymore? Why do the birds go on singing? Why do the stars glow above? Don't they know it's the end of the world? It ended when I lost your love. This is very telling of the kind of story we're getting in this film. You know, it's like all this epicness is just the backdrop for this love story going on with the characters. I mean, and they show you that in the trailer. There's like this love triangle that goes on, I think, if I'm not mistaken. The Char was pointing that out between the two characters from Game of Thrones and Gemma Chan, I believe her name is.
Okay. Well, okay, so that's an interesting take. But for me, regarding that song, I was thinking about it in terms of the end of the world as the end of things is how we know it, maybe the end of civilization that you're being familiar with. I think of movies like Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, right?
Okay.
For them and those people, the apocalypse or the end of all things came at the very end of the movie when they saw the ships in the distance, and it's like, okay, this is the end of everything that we know so far. This song, to me, kind of can maybe hint at that, especially when you look at the very first beginnings of what the song's talking about. Why is the sun all shining? See on the shore, all that other stuff. It's the end of the world because you don't love me anymore. So it may be the end of all things to coincide along with the end of a relationship with that love triangle that you may be hinting at.
So fatalistic, but yeah, that is also kind of how it feels to be dumped. I love how the music works on a couple levels for the Eternals. One, this movie will feature a love triangle among Cersei and her longtime historical lover, Icarus, and her new squeeze, human Dane Whitman. Yes, two kings of the north. And that heartbreak may lead to Icarus becoming a kind of Count Paris figure, the jealous suitor to Dane and Cersei as the Romeo and Juliet star-crossed lovers of this film.
Isn't it a little bit odd that this happened with the two guys from Game of Thrones, which is all riddled with, you know, all kinds of love triangles and squares and octagons and whatnot?
Yeah, but they were brothers in Game of Thrones, though, right?
I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's just a little weird.
So on a more literal level, the song lyrics asking, do they know it's the end of the world, definitely applies to the Eternals' mysterious absence from past MCU apocalyptic events. Where the hell were they for all of it?
Right.
Now, did they, like the Ancient One, actually support all these fights from just fronts we have yet to see? Or could their memories have been wiped, leaving them in a kind of lazy bliss? Or is there some new apocalyptic threat they don't yet know about that they've been stirred awake from their hibernation to face? More on all of that in the next section.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Now here inside the Eternal ship, that last note of Skeeter Davis singing "Anymore" holds out eerily suspended.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Let's just keep playing that copyright music, no problem.
Those are two.
Almost like Icarus
Beautiful
himself,
individuals.
holding on to that word, suspicious that Cersei might not love him anymore someday. Now, Icarus leads the Eternals alongside Thena, Angelina Jolie, their military commander. I love how you can see her cosmic energy stitching together the plating of her armor here. Then
Oh,
Ajax,
that's awesome.
Salma Hayek, is the group's spiritual leader and healer who can still communicate with their godly creators, the Celestials, the giant armored space gods who we saw briefly in Guardians of the Galaxy. Ego is technically a Celestial. The severed head of Nowhere is technically a Celestial head. Hopefully they'll show up in the next trailer because they're awesome. So Ajax believes in helping mankind, as does Phastos, Brian Tyree Henry, who's a master of technology. That background tank
They look nothing alike.
No.
They don't look anything alike. I'm still mad at dude. No, I'm still mad at dude for what he did in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Let that man live, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about more representation, but couldn't you find a guy? Keenan Ivory Wayans looks closer to that guy than, I mean, I don't know how old he looks now. He's in his much later years. But doesn't that look like Keenan Ivory Wayans?
It does a little bit. At least that concept drawing does. But, you know, I do like this, though. I do love that they're still keeping the concept of the high tech, still being with somebody of color, because this kind of ties into
He's the
Wakanda.
only one who doesn't look in shape out of everybody in that group.
No, he looks fresh off a ham sandwich. Like he just got done.
Why they gotta do it to him like that? Come on. There's so many like built black dudes that are in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, but I guess because his star power is gaining, I guess you're gonna go with something that works. He's fresh off the heels of Godzilla.
Well, Michael J.
People kinda
White.
know who he is. Michael J. White is old, man. That dude is like 50.
He's an Eternal. He still looks like he's 25.
But I guess the thing about the Eternals is everybody's got to kind of look young, with the exception of Angelina Jolie and what's her name?
Right.
Yeah.
So you know who's dying off already in this movie.
Oh, the old,
Yeah.
that's the trope. It's always true.
Technology. That background tank behind Ajax and Phastos looks a lot like a greenhouse containing various plants and fungi. These could be the roots of miracle plants, superfoods, herbal medicines that Ajax and the others have planted in various civilizations to give them a leg up. Now, Phastos weaves together a steampunky machine. It seems like this guy inspired mankind's great technological feats. He might have helped the Wakandans forge their vibranium into tools and cool stuff that they can use. Which, if you think about it, might include what eventually became Howard Stark's design of the Captain America shield, which insanely shows up 3 times in this trailer later on.
Yep.
But Phastos' display
I
here
didn't
could be
catch that.
his cosmic energy signature, as all the Eternals appear to have a unique design to theirs, with their specific energy matching the design patterns of their wardrobe. And Phastos, his being more elaborate, could be a composite of all celestial-derived technology, similar to how the celestial ego used overlapping circles and ovals and ellipses as part of his whole aesthetic with his ship and his tableaus. And since with the celestial Aeson the Searcher, there's a whole history connected with the Infinity Stones there, and all of this cosmic energy might be derived from those stones. Now, filling out the rest of the Eternals lineup, we got Gilgamesh, played by Don Lee. He is the strongest Eternal. Then Kingo, Kumail Nanjiani, who lives a double life as a Bollywood star. Then Makari, Lauren Ridloff, who's deaf and she can move at supersonic speeds. Sprite, Leah McHugh, who looks like a 12-year-old, but can project illusions. And then Druig, Barry Keoghan, a standoffish Eternal who can control minds and disagrees with the other's assistance to mankind. Now, this film could be based on the Neil Gaiman run of the Eternals, which features Sprite erasing the memories of the Eternals, leaving them oblivious to their role as human protectors, and might also explain their absence to the past Marvel crises. This erasure might happen after the Eternals' ancient vanquishing of their mortal enemies, the Deviants, also created by the Celestials, but then that slumber might be interrupted by the attack by Thanos, who, in the comics, is technically an Eternal with a deviant gene. He's kind of the worst of both bloodlines, which would now make the Eternals feel super guilty for essentially sleeping through this catastrophic deviant resurgence. They didn't know it was the end of the world. Next clip.
We have watched, unguided. We have helped them progress.
Okay, here Cersei helps ancient humans with agriculture by irrigating their crops from her hand. And then you see the shot of her hand grazing the plants, recalling a similar shot of Thanos in Endgame with his crops in the garden. Just another example of how this deviant Eternal, who was so obsessed with not enough food to go around, was part of the same history that gave Earth its riches through the Eternals. Now, ancient world history lesson here, kids. Civilizations first arose among 4 major river networks: the Tigris and Euphrates in ancient Mesopotamia, the Nile in northern Africa, the Indus River Valley of India, and the Yellow River in China, all of which expedited agricultural advancements, trade, all the good stuff. I wonder if these Eternals, whose ethnicities reflect these various regions of the world, could be revealed as helping and expand and link these exact pivotal waterways. Cersei hands someone this dagger.
That just tickles me in a way that you just...
Me too, dude. Me too. The way he was breaking that down, I'm like, oh my god, that's dope. That's so dope. Having these characters that being like the beginnings of civilization as we know it.
Right.
Like everything that, like planting the seeds for what eventually becomes.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And see, and then we always have this talk about proper representation. Like there's a story behind this representation. You're talking about a group of people from the Tigris and Euphrates. You're talking about people from whole totally different segments, so that when you do see all of the Eternals and it looks like a United Benetton commercial of everybody all happy-go-lucky because we all look different, it's not just placating, right?
Right.
It's like there's a story, there's a purpose as to why these people are there. That's to me, is what's amazing in good storytelling in film. Right?
It's not just woke culture.
Yeah, you're not just doing it just to make people feel good. It's got a reason. It's got a purpose behind it.
Yep.
Notice it has 10 beads on the hilt, arranged in a pyramid, maybe reflecting the 10 Eternals, who also line up in a pointed V with Ajax at the point of it. If we extend the Kubrick parallel, this could be a technological handoff from one generation to the next, a weapon that Cersei gives an early human, not realizing it might inspire the whole Bronze Age of weapon assembling that launched civilizations forward, and thousands of years later led to people like this guy.
The Jericho.
Oh, don't sully his good name.
Moving on.
Unseen them accomplish wonders.
Here Athena fights with a shielded warrior, but whoa, look at that. Is that not the same pattern as Captain America's shield? Star in the center, concentric stripes. Now, this looks like ancient times, and American stars and stripes iconography wasn't really a thing until the 18th century, but we never got answers exactly of how Howard Stark came about that vibranium for the prototype shield in the first Cap movie, only that he believed it to be all the vibranium left in the world, so he must have gotten it somewhere other than Wakanda.
He stole it.
A generous benefactor named Phastos hooked him up with that supply. Phastos may have also given him some tips on how to fashion it, which would link it back with the technology he had been giving victorious armies for millennia. Or, I don't know, maybe on Steve Rogers' Stone Delivery Time Trip, he dropped by ancient Mesopotamia and Johnny B. Good incepted their ideas for shield design. Then Makari, Athena, Gilgamesh, and Icarus and Kingo stand before these kneeling Babylonians at the famous Ishtar Gate of Babylon. Now, pieces of it are visitable in museums. Right here, Ajax says they've seen humans accomplish wonders, syncing with this wider shot of the city showing the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. Then the words "this November" with a weird little double helix shape in the O. Similar double helixes appear in Makari's treasure room on either side of the screen. I have theorized that DNA and genetic history could be a big part of this film, showing the origins of mankind and human evolution into things like mutant kind. No, again, I'm not going to say there's going to be a Wolverine cameo in this movie, but I am saying to keep an eye out on all these Egyptian scenes for signs of someone like Insaban-Nur, aka the mutant Apocalypse, who got his origins in ancient Egypt. I mean, there could be another layer of meaning to the song "The End of the World," that meaning being apocalypse. Just saying. All right, next clip.
Dude, I love this.
That's a lot.
I love this so much. I love this so much. This idea that the genetic encoding and whatnot.
Yes.
And how that links to everything else, and then the eventuality of the mutants. And so it's taking you from the very beginning and then to the present and then future of where it's all headed.
Yeah, and then it's also kind of like loosely tied into like pseudoscience as well, because there's a lot of theories that human life sprang from someplace else, right? Like this is just like a planet, regular planet, and then be it asteroids or comets, whatever it is, crashes in, drops the kind of DNA stuff, and then like here we are, you know, apes springing from single-celled organisms. To tie that into a story with magical creatures and Marvel and all that, chef's kiss. I love that.
We have never interfered until now.
Okay, when I saw this section while first reacting to the trailer, I said, oh good, a room full of shit. But I live for this, I'm on it. Okay, Makari is a speedster, so she must have snatched a ton of...
You know what I picked up on?
What's that?
A PS Vita. Look at that.
Oh, that is that. That's funny. Yeah, somebody should get fired. Is that just as bad as leaving the cup of coffee in Game of Thrones?
No. That was on purpose. Because this is a collector. This person's a collector of everything.
Oh, so Vita
historical artifacts. Let's break down everything we could see. To the left is a statue of the Egyptian feline deity Bastet, which actually was an influence on the Wakandan panther deity Bast. And then to the right of that, an actual painting, La Leçon de Musique by Nicolas Lanclet, which actually currently hangs in the Louvre in Paris. Now, in the background on the left is a golden Roman imperial eagle staff with the letters SPQR for Senatus Populus Quae Romanus, or the Senate and People of Rome. So this is something from the ancient Roman Senate. And then closer to us on the left are some scrolls. Not scrolls, scrolls. perhaps the Dead Sea
biblical
Scrolls,
scrolls.
scrolls from the Library of
Yeah.
Alexandria. But then to the right of those is the freaking Holy Grail.
Oh my
Actually
God.
looks like the wooden with gold inlay design
Just
from Indiana
tossed to
Jones:
the
The Last
side.
Crusade. Then above those is a famous statue, the Chimera of Arezzo, which you can find in the National Archaeological Museum in Florence, Italy. Now, Makari is sitting on some throne. This is not the British coronation chair, St. Edward's chair, but it must be one similar to it. Then a medieval suit of armor, like one you'd find nearby in the armory in the Tower of London. And then an Egyptian statue holding an ankh. And then to the lower right of the throne looks like a PlayStation VR set, because you gotta have one of those. So Cersei
Sorry, I said
recalls her
Vita.
memories.
I meant VR set.
Right.
You all know what I meant. I misspoke, but I meant VR.
That's still
Through
looking fine,
time,
though.
she's wearing the same clothes back in Babylon, sync cut into present day London. Time is all a flat circle to her. And then this nighttime battle with soldiers in medieval armor that looks like the same battle where Athena and Gilgamesh appear to be fighting last teaser. Maybe these two end up on the opposite sides of whatever war this is. And then another past battle, a burning ancient city as robed figures are attacked by some armored soldier on horseback. Looks like he gets him with a mace. Later, Makari rescues a kid from a falling pillar during this same battle. Then Sprite sheds a single tear, surrounded by lava-covered terrain. Maybe this is the aftermath of that volcano eruption. Now, I guess this could be Mount Vesuvius, which we do see destroying Pompeii in Loki footage, but I don't know. I don't think we'll see a Loki cameo in the Eternals, just because the mountains have different shapes. Actually, that Loki footage sampled footage of Mount St. Helens eruption, which this is clearly not. So I am wondering if this could be the destruction of a civilization the Eternals were unable to save, like Atlantis, which would cause it to sink into the ocean, and maybe as an apology, Cersei left them with this dagger that its recipient, Namor, might later turn into the tip of his famous spear. Now, you'll notice Sprite's chest armor has its own sigil with a series of symbols lining the edge. Now, also here we see several Eternals floating and combining their uniquely shaped cosmic energy.
That shit looks like crop circles to me.
I can see that.
This stuff,
does.
it looks just like crop circles to
does.
me. So the Eternals have been talking to us for some time now.
Young-looking Sprite, which is why her sigil incorporates all these other symbols. And this might be how she would be able to erase the others' memories. Then a shot of Ajax consoling Phastos. Both are wearing clothes in the modern era. Now, in the modern era, he's going to be married to an architect. And maybe now Phastos is grieving his husband's death. Because think about it, they're Eternals. They're gonna have to all watch their human loved ones die. It's like Twilight. Then Drigg is in this woodland camp populated by weirdos in matching white and denim outfits that I have theorized is a cult cut off from society of humans brainwashed by Drigg, who believes that humans should live in this kind of state of nature without the technological cheat codes given to them by the Eternals. Except they're guns, because our celestial gods made us come out to womb that way, goddammit. Actually, later in the trailer, these people's eyes are glowing, which, yeah, is definitely a sign of mind control by Drigg. Then Gilgamesh interlocks fingers with Athena. Looks like a fellow warrior he may have an unrequited romantic relationship with. Oh. Next clip. Okay, here we get this fun montage of Icarus and Cersei, first in ancient times, then what looks like a Hindu wedding, and then in the modern era. But notice how in each of them, Icarus looks way more into it than Cersei does. This isn't gonna end well. Then at this cult camp location, one of the Eternals places that cloaking spell now on a tree to make it invisible. I'm wondering if this could be Drigg trying to hide this from outsiders, like Hermione putting those cloaking spells when they were glamping. Then Kingo performs this amazing Bollywood dance number, probably from one of his films. Notice how his film costume matches his Eternals look, showing how part of him always wanted to keep that part of his story alive. And behind Kingo, guards stand with shields that once again look similar to the shield before. Concentric stripes, maybe a star in the middle there. Yeah, Kingo's movie might even be a Bollywood version of the Cap story. A quick shot of Kingo grappling with this nasty beast. It's hard to tell what this thing is, though you can kind of tell a wispy tail, the body of a bull, but with folding hind legs, like a minotaur perhaps? What if what we are looking at here is a deviant, but the deviants on Earth are the beasts mankind has based its folklore upon, like the Minotaur, the Chimera, the Griffin, the Sasquatch, the Nessie, the Busey. By the way, that the Eternals are what the gods and ancient heroes of our mythology are based on. Athena, Icarus, Gilgamesh. But then we come back to this volcano I talked about before, but look closely at it. Something's going on in that erupting ash. There's a flash of gold and then a flash of violet white. And then on the left, a whole plume of smoke just vanishes suddenly. This eruption could could have been caused by a battle between Eternals and Deviants and led to a massive human loss, which might have prompted the Eternals' hibernation. And then a shot of Sprite getting drunk, singing karaoke on a private jet. Look at all those letter K's everywhere. I'm assuming this is Kingo's. But then look over on the right, my friends, that is Captain America's old school shield. Yes, another example of the Eternals' connection with Captain America's history and that shield, which I really think Phastos might have truly been helping out with. And then our one shot of Cersei with Dane Whitman, who we're assuming will become the Black Knight in this movie. Perhaps the flashbacks to medieval history will reveal the origin of the Ebony Blade, which in the comics ties in with Merlin, King Arthur, Sir Percy of Scandia, the first Black Knight, until that sword ends up in the hands of Dane Whitman, allowing Jon Snow to finally become the Azor Ahai we all wanted him to be. On to the next clip.
When you say
How do you fit this movie into one movie?
I have no idea.
How do you fit all that?
See, and that's my problem. It's too big of a scope to be put into
A single film.
into 90 to 120 minutes.
Well, I would think at least 2.5 hours is the bare minimum that we're looking at here, just to get this all across. Unless you just are just blipping through everything, no pun intended. Unless you're just like skipping like a stone across a lake.
Right.
You know, like I don't know, a lake? Yeah. Like you throw stones across the lake, right? Unless you're just jumping through everything like that, which is entirely possible. I don't know how you tell a cohesive, effective story that is emotionally connecting with the audience. It's like it's all moving through so much stuff. It might end up feeling a little bit like the Fountain crossed with Cloud Atlas or something like that.
I'm thinking it's going to be just all origin, and then you're going to be left with a cliffhanger once you get like the backstory. I think this entire thing is going to be backstory.
Yeah.
And then they're going to tie it into wherever it is that Marvel wants to take the story on from there. And if they do it that way and leave you on a cliffhanger to bring in a part 2, because I can't see them not making a part 2 to this or continue it on in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
What you're saying is all true. It's too big to be done in one thing. You watched any
Almost done.
Like Jupiter's Legacy?
I haven't watched Jupiter's Legacy.
Okay.
I watched Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
Much better film.
Yeah. Well, the costume design is trash. It's horrible. It looks hokey. But there's one thing I will always give Marvel products is like the costume design is always really well done, and them manipulating the light, and each one has their own symbol, and then all the magic and stuff is like working with their symbols.
Everything's meaningful.
Yeah. I'm just a super fan right now, man.
Yeah.
good.
Alright, we got our full lineup. Kingo, Makari, Gilgamesh, Thena, Icarus, Ajax, Cersei, Sprite, Phastos, and sulking off to the side Druig. It is the kind of team-up shot that may or may not be in the movie based on past Marvel trailers, but if it is, I am wondering if this could be the moment of their creation by the Celestials or them saying sayonara to them. Like, those could be the ones they're saying goodbye to, with the real breakup of this breakup song being between the Celestials and the Eternals. And then the Eternals title forms upon this starry background from smoke, perhaps a nod to their celestial origins, but then each letter is formed by two sides folding together, maybe reflecting the way that humans and Eternals unite in this story. And then the final clip.
Thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
So now that Captain Rogers and Iron Man are both gone, who do you think's gonna lead the Avengers?
I could lead them.
Yes, this great family dinner hosted by Gilgamesh with Sprite, Icarus, Thena, Kingo, and his cameraman, played by Harish Patel. We saw him in the last teaser. And then, of course, Cersei. Another use of the wording gone to describe Steve Rogers. Similar to how the Falcon and the Winter Soldier just kind of ducked that question of what exactly happened to old Steve after Endgame. Other than the running joke of that conspiracy theory that he was on the moon. I don't know if that old timer would survive the trip. Either way, it is interesting to hear Sprite call Steve Captain Rogers instead of Captain America. Now, it could signal Sprite is caught up on the latest promotion of Sam Wilson into the Captain America title, but it also sounds like something Steve was called back in the 40s by Peggy Carter, Howard Stark, the other early members of S.H.I.E.L.D. To me, it's just another sign that the Super Soldier program might have been something the Eternals were invested in.
That was thorough, dude.
Yeah, it was.
That was thorough.
It seems like everything from his theories, everything that's cool about the Marvel Universe was influenced by the Eternals. Super Soldier Serum, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that. I do kind of like the whole idea of, Iron Man's daddy whipping it together and them kind of like running away. How do you feel about the possibilities of the mutants being spawned from their influence?
I love it, dude. I love all of this. This movie has me so excited because it reminds me so much of a story that I had constructed in my mind as a kid. Like, I've written all these notes about a story about the origins of humanity and whatnot and where it possibly came from, because there's this long-running notion that we came from, single-cell organisms,
right,
through the Big Bang Theory and all that and whatnot. Whereas this is talking about us coming from an advanced civilization of some kind, and at least on some level. I love that idea so much, and it trying to explain and break down like where all these things come from that we have in our folklore and whatnot, and that we don't understand, like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot and all that stuff, like trying to find a way to just sort of hint at, oh, this might have come from here, this might have come from here. But to go across the entire expanse of time, where the character in that chair has all the stuff from all these different parts, including like the chalice of Jesus.
Right.
What's it called? The Holy Grail.
Right.
Right? And a PS VR set and all that. And then the Captain Rogers shield. I'm like, how do you cover all that without it feeling like a rushed story? That's the only reluctance I have here. I hope that this has enough time to breathe. The fact of the matter is, Marvel managed to do 2 3-hour films, and they each sold out. Those were shows that were hard to get into. Yeah. And this has somewhat of a star-studded cast here. I would imagine that if they decided to go 3 hours, people would still sit and watch it. I would sit and watch it, just because I feel like this kind of story deserves more time.
Right.
Unless they're doing something like Lord of the Rings, where they're showing us an advertisement to something that's like not all in one movie.
Okay.
When they split it up into 2. That's entirely possible.
Well, I think the Lord of the Rings thing is exactly what they're going to be going for. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a trilogy, or even if it's just going to be like a 2-part episode regarding it, because of just the depth of that span of time that you have to cover. I think one of the big things I'm really interested in is the city of Atlantis. I cannot remember the last time I've seen that story like being told. There was like a cartoon about it in like the late 90s, I want to say, an American cartoon. But other than that, man, nobody's really dove into, at least from a cinematic standpoint,
right,
the story of Atlantis. And I'm really intrigued about that volcano exploding. Is it going to be Pompeii? Is that Mount Vesuvius going on? Is it a volcano that was on Atlantis to go with? And then bringing in the concept of Namor, who on many different people's charts is a very high-end, he's not even a mutant, he's just a high-end character, overly superpowered character that controls the entire sea. What a more amazing way to bring in one of the most powerful Marvel characters in through the Internals, and giving them that knife as the point of the trident.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's so much to take in.
Yeah, it's to take in and break down, yeah. But I'm excited. I'm hoping that they do this so well that it becomes my second favorite Marvel film. Like, first is Doctor Strange. I hope it surpasses that. Doctor Strange was just like something completely different than, even just on a cinematic level, it was different than anything else we'd seen out there in Hollywood, and the interesting character. The only thing that they failed on that front was the bad guy was kind of lame. Overall, like, Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel film, and this has me super stoked because of what it's trying to accomplish, and it's a very, very tall order.
Yes.
To try to cover all of that stuff and not lose you emotionally. Because that's the big reluctance with telling a story about gods.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you make them interesting? You got to humanize them. And so there is an element of City of Angels in here. Did you see that with Nicolas Cage? He becomes a human because he falls in love with the humans. Or at least Meg Ryan.
That's an interesting cross-reference. I wouldn't even put those two together. I just have one more thing, because like you said, this is media. There's a lot of stuff to break down, and I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the process of what Marvel has done in order to get where they are with the MCU. And I think about like the ground level films that they started off with, when you have like Daredevil, and then you got like Luke Cage, and you got those Netflix specials that came out, and they did a very good job with it. But then you got your medium levels heroes as well, your Iron Man, your Captain Americas. Then they like really gambled. They like gambled on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
But it paid off. It worked, because not only did they take something that's just way over the top when you're dealing with galactic type of problems, they made it a comedy. They had endearing characters, and now that they know that people are willing to go down that awkward path of storytelling, and that even connects with what you were saying regarding Doctor Strange, you can take this leap of Eternals. I don't think Eternals works if you don't have Guardians of the Galaxy before it, and if you have something like Doctor Strange introducing that type of reality into that world because of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It's dealing with high superpower people and then trying to humanize them.
It's high concept stuff that, each of these films acts as a primer for the next thing. It's like, okay, we got you here, and now we're going to take you here and then to here to make you comfortable, because if they just started with the Eternals, it would be too much. We'd be like, what? But because we've experienced everything we have so far, it makes us more comfortable with these more complex ideas, so long as they're humanized. And what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy was they're like, okay, sci-fi, how do we do this? Let's, you have this guy who's from Earth, and he's got these nostalgic songs.
Right.
And so there's already a very heavy human component in there that allows us to like immediately insert ourselves into it.
Right.
That's a big key to why Guardians of the Galaxy worked on a number of levels outside of it just being a good story and being fun. Like there's a big accessibility for us that feels very close to the heart, which is the nostalgia.
Yeah.
So even though it's this sci-fi futuristic thing, there's a nostalgic aspect to it that's undeniable, and that like is the gateway into the other things. I'm sure that there'll be some of that here on some level. There's got to be something there. I mean, the fact that they got that old-timey music in there, I'm sure there's going to be something that is going to tie into nostalgia at some point in this story, like, oh my god, they're in the 80s. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wonder what the theme song from Mesopotamia is going to be like, what 60s or 70s song reference it's going to be. You know what else is also they've gotten us used to and got us prepared for is massive amounts of genocide, especially when you're dealing with somebody like Thanos, so him being able to snap and wipe out everybody on the planet Earth. We're now prepped to see what an Eternals level of dealing with civilizations, or even separating themselves from the Celestials.
Okay. So we haven't even gotten anywhere near that yet.
Right. See, but that's what I'm saying. But we're comfortable. We're comfortable enough to accept that, because we've seen a gigantic Celestial's head that they flew into and did things in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe it was one of the Avengers.
No. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah, Volume 2. So we've already got the scale down pat.
Yeah.
So now whatever happens, we know something is capable of killing that. We've seen a Celestial get killed in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 already with his father being a Celestial as well. So we're ready for whatever it is that's going to be brought to the table.
Dude, I remember going all the way back. This conversation's getting long in the tooth, so we got to wrap this up in a second. But I just remember going all the way back to X-Men on Fox. For me it was Fox 11.
Okay.
And it was after Jean Grey became Phoenix.
Right.
Somewhere after that, there was this whole exploration into a story taking place in space, and it was this whole like world within this diamond or something like that.
Okay.
And it was just like sci-fi and very cerebral and weird and out there, and I'm like, whoa.
Right.
This shit just goes really far out there at a certain point. Like, I missed a good 20 episodes before it got there. I'm like, I don't know how we ended up here, but this is crazy. Like, the places the stories go is very fascinating, and it's like you really, like you were saying, you really need these primers to get to that. I'm ready for it. Yeah. I'm excited. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this, and do check out Syntell's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Syntell. Subscribe here if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon, all notifications, please. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
it's your boy Syntell.
Peace out.